But, you know.
I had to go, we did a last and went back. Yeah, you were that was fun.
Now it's really horrific.
So did everybody sign in, and does everybody have the sheet? You don't have to fill this out, by the way. It's not.
Oh, I was ready.
You don't have to fill it out. Everybody signed in and has a sheet?
No.
Yes.
I mean, I heard two.
And this is my pen. Let's do it.
I got that same pen from you.
That's my pen. Let's do it.
I mean, technically,
I usually don't, my pens usually don't have my logo, they have like motivational stuff.
That is your logo, motivation.
Exactly, so I have motivational messages
I
on my
love
logo,
it.
on my pens. So I actually got, I remember to bring my clicker so that I don't have to sit here, because this is for those of you who are new, this is very discussion-based, interactive, informal, so feel free to ask questions while the presentation is going on. I'll wait for her and then we'll do brief introductions.
We should take a picture before. That way we don't wait till the end.
Because people leave, right?
Yes.
People
I have
leave.
to leave.
Oh, all right, so it's self-serving, that comment. You're giving me openings. You're giving me openings.
Take care of yourself. That's good.
Hi, everyone.
Take care of yourself.
Let's go. Let's take a photo for Kara.
For Kara.
Alright, 1, 2, and 3. Oh, hold on. Let me take my timer off. I did a selfie the other day. I needed a timer. Okay. Beautiful.
And if you don't know, I've said it 100 times, Erica's my alter ego. She keeps me in check because I tend to forget, like my coffee.
Take your coffee over there.
Okay, so let's start with intro, short intro, who you are, what you do. We have new faces and we have some, I'm not going to say old, we have some, no, some faces that we already know and have been here before. So Erica, you can start off.
Okay. I'm Erica Rivera, educator on sexual assault prevention and recovery, healthy intimacy and adolescent safety, and founder of the National Care Foundation Center for Advocacy, Resources, and Equity.
Go Kara.
That's a lot.
I'm Cindy Polverino, and I am 2 days unemployed, so I am searching, but I am a out-of-place mortgage originator specializing in reverse mortgages.
Oh, Cindy, you snuck in behind me.
I did.
Well, I am also Cynthia. And I have two businesses, Executive Concierge, which is basically virtual assistants focusing on solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and small businesses that have a passion for something and lost that because they've gotten tied up in all the administrative tasks. So I want to help them with that. And then as far as my other business, which is Funky Fandom Fashion, it is making custom-made clothing for your passion, or just regular clothing if you want it too. So I can do basically anything, and right now Santa hats are the key since it's coming into the holiday
I
season.
have one. So lovely.
So if you want one, hit me up.
Did you make what you're wearing?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep.
Twirl.
Well, I didn't make the jacket, but I mean, I made the dress. So.
That's you.
Look at the lines there, my child.
I know.
Oh, girl, that's no
I
way.
know.
She is the walking advertisement for her
Yes.
business.
Yes, I'm doing it purposefully.
Miss Ellen.
I'm Ellen Kohler, owner and creator of One and Only Jewelry by EK, and this is one of my pieces for my Christmas line. So you can come out and see my whole Christmas line at a Christmas event in the VFW Hall, May 12th and 13th.
No, not May.
I mean,
That's a long way away.
Why are we shopping for Christmas?
November, I'm sorry.
That's where Christmas
Wow!
She was thinking of Christmas in July.
I have
Actually,
two.
that's
Where's November?
Drink your coffee.
Ellen, November?
yes, November, I'm sorry, Saturday and Sunday.
What's the date?
November 12th and 13th.
She made two of my earrings, 2 pairs of my earrings. Awesome. They match perfectly with my belly dance costumes that I recently purchased. Love them.
And if anybody knows Barbara Flinch, then she's also another it's an acute thing. I haven't seen it yet, but someone it's a business opportunity. We're going to be, and this is actually has something to do with this group too. It's women empowering women co-op. So basically, it's women that don't have overhead, that want overhead because their business is growing to the point that they're growing out of wherever they are, like home
So
or
it's a
whatever.
transitional kind of thing.
So we're going to have little offices, and we're hoping to sign up with at least 6 on the belt and maybe grow from there.
That's awesome.
So, and another thing,
Ellen, we have to move on.
my husband is supporting my endeavor.
Good, Ellen, we have to move on.
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Madonna.
Madonna with Berk Florida Insurance, and I'm the operations manager there, and I held a slew of other things that I do, not supposed to, that I do, but, yeah, that's me. Madonna, Berk Florida Insurance, and I'm gonna get coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Kara?
I'm Kara King. I'm a medical esthetician at Bella Spa, Kara King Aesthetics. We do chemical peels. We do everything that you could possibly want for your face. We do eyebrows. We do permanent makeup, micro needling, microblading. We're gonna have some incredible things coming up, even soon, but even after the first of the year, things are going to be changing in like the most positive, expansive direction. So I'll have like some exciting news for you guys that might get.
Awesome.
All right, well, hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Haar with Home Instead, so I'm sure you guys are all familiar. I provide in-home private duty care for seniors. Right now, I'm on a mission to find family members who are actually taking care of their own family, to offer them some respite care. A lot of them don't even know that's available. I get phone calls every day and they're like, what's respite care? Someone told me about it. So that's where I'm trying to fill in the gaps. I'm new to this area, so I'm still learning everybody's faces. Everybody's been so kind. And I need to talk to you about homeowners insurance.
Okay.
How long have you been in the industry?
I've been in Palm Coast for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, working 6 months in this area, so, yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
right on time. You could have not timed it better.
Oh.
So don't even sit down.
Now introduce, I'll come on this side. I'm hiding over here so I do have to leave soon and run back and forth if the door opens. So I'm Nina Galato. I work here for Logan Funeral Home, and I do all kinds of things and help people with their pre-planning needs and speaking. If a company needs a speaker for something, then I'm always open to do that, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes. And I have a seminar Tuesday night at 5:30 in Ormond. So I will be speaking there. If any of you have anyone to come, I'd really appreciate it. I kind of dropped the ball on promoting it this time, and we did put it on the radio, but I need some help. So if you
What's your
guys know
topic?
anybody, what's that?
What's your topic?
It's going to be getting your ducks in a row. So are all your ducks in a row? So talking about pre-planning. I do talk about cremations, funeral. I remind people they also need to review their wills if they're moved here from another area, trusts and things. So it's about a half an hour. I do have food. I also have tables available if someone wants to be a vendor. So
And
I
it's free
do not
if you want to
charge.
be a vendor.
Yes.
You just have to
Bring a gift.
bring a gift.
And you
For
donate
you,
at your table.
Cindy, and
Mhm.
for you, I think it fits perfectly.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll get the information.
Now to be a vendor. Now to be a vendor, that's all. So yes, so you bring a $25 gift, you keep at your own table, and then people can come up to you and enter their little raffles and then go from there. So it won't be a huge crowd, I'll tell you that now, but you will network with other people, and we will have some guests. I do have some registered from the radio already. But I typically do promote it a lot more and have normally a big crowd. So next year I will be still continuing to rotate it, Palm Coast and Ormond, and I'm going to also spread out into Daytona, DeLand. So I'll be doing that next year. But I know usually you talk about events at the end, but because I'm leaving, I'm sneaking it in.
That's fine.
Sneaking it in. But yes, if you don't have my information, then maybe Dr. Lane can send you. I do not have any business cards. I ran out like a week ago, it's still not here, so.
That happened to me.
Not good. So
Party
it's
makeup for
charity.
That's my good thing.
Anyway, thank you all for being here, and if you ever do need a location for something like this, or you want to give, we are always welcome in any of our locations. So we actually do the Lions meeting here once a month, and we may be adding that in Port Orange too, so whatever it is, so don't hesitate. So thank you.
Yes, Loman has been very gracious, Anita, as well. They allow the space for any community kind of outreach program or workshops or presentation, which is wonderful.
Yes.
So most of you know me already. I'm Dr. Maria, and I am your brain-based business coach and strategist, and I help leaders like yourself elevate their performance so they can achieve growth and realize your goals and objectives. What makes me different from other coaches and what makes me different from other consultants is that I really combine neuroscience and business strategies to really help the person that I'm working with achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve, both at the individual level and at the business level as well. So I'm not going to go too much into what I do, but I do work with mindset, mental wealth, and I do work with organizations as well. And with that, I will get started. So we know what we're here for, which is the power of leading authentically. So we're going to talk about what it is to lead authentically, specifically what it is to lead authentically as women in business or in the workplace and even in life. So again, this is very interactive. So if you have any questions, any comments, it's really structured more as what Erica calls a support group that we can discuss what our challenges are and how we can become better leaders, specifically for this topic. So what are the things we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what exactly is leadership. And we're going to talk about some of the key statistics, specifically as it relates to women in leadership roles. We're going to talk about the gender differences, and because I'm a brain-based coach, I'm going to briefly talk about those differences at the brain level. That makes us different from our male counterpart because there are some differences both at the brain level and as well as our skill set that we can leverage to become more effective leaders in our community and in our workplace. We're going to talk about women in leadership and briefly discuss imposter syndrome because it is connected. Women who have some challenges going up the corporate ladder tend to have what we call imposter syndrome, and it's not a diagnosis, but it is a set of characteristics that we see with women and also with men. And lastly, we're going to discuss sort of having that authentic leadership mindset. How can we get our mindset to be effective leaders and to be authentic leaders? So going on, in front of you are some of the questions that you don't have to fill out, but I do want you to start thinking are they 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, because I've changed it so much. But I'm like, did I change the question? So in front of you are some of the questions, these questions, which really you can start contemplating as we are having this discussion and thinking about. Behind, on the back side of the paper, are additional questions that you can take with you and later really think about. And these questions are really designed to start getting your mind rolling into what it is, who you are, and who you are as a leader. Okay, so it gets kind of your juices rolling. So keep that in mind. And so, for example, I don't want to go through all of them and spend some time, but what does authenticity mean to you? It really is different for each and every one of us because, there's some general consensus, but it is different because we're unique and we're authentic. So it's going to show up differently for each and every one of us. And we really need to define what that looks like. And the reason why is because we have found that being an authentic leader makes us a more effective leader in today's world. 20 years ago,
Right.
I was going to say, in today's world. So let me,
It's evolved.
It's evolved, exactly. So what do you want people to really know about who you are? Okay, not only what you do, but who you are, because that's part of authenticity. Okay, who are you? And I'm not saying to put your whole personal life on the table, obviously, but what are those things that you want people in the community and people that you have relationships, professional relationships with, know about you? what are your values? And sometimes we have these deep values that we really do not talk about. So it's important to really write down and think about what those values are, and if those values, are you engaging and acting in those values, not only in the workplace and in your business, but also in your personal life? Is there some congruency? Because sometimes there isn't. Sometimes we are very different in our workplace than we are in our life. And what is your personal and professional vision? You know, I talk to so many people that say, yeah, I have goals and I have a vision and so forth, and they say it, but they really don't solidify it. They really don't write it down. They don't create a pathway, a roadmap that will get you there, because you need to have that roadmap to really reach that vision. At one point, you're going to have to adjust that roadmap. And if it's all here, guess what? Our brain, our mind will get tired. You know, we don't have a lazy brain, but it really focuses on certain specific things. So that's why we need to write things down, so we can use our mind for something else.
I've been doing that like either every day or every 2 to 3 days, like reminding myself, this is what you want, this is what your goal is, this is what you're looking for, this is the road that we're taking.
Yeah.
And it does, it helps bring you back.
It helps you bring you back, and you don't put, you know, you take stuff out of your mind.
Yeah.
You know, where you don't have to think about it. You can kind of look at it. So it's important to be able to do that. What motivates you and what makes you tick? I don't know. Anybody want to share what motivates them?
I mean, I don't want to say success, but the ability to be able to provide for my family, have fun with my family, have fun with my girlfriends, spend a little time on me, myself, you know, that motivates me to do everything, my, you know, personal and professional. Take care of my home, take care of my office, take care of my girlfriends, my husband, my children, and my team members, you know, so that's what motivates me.
Yeah, external motivations are good, and you're talking about external motivation, something that's outside of you that really motivates you to reach that vision and that goal. But we also need to keep in mind to have some internal motivators for ourselves. What motivates us internally that is not someone else, that is not a certain situation outside of us, and that's where it gets really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, because as women, we tend to be motivated by caregiving, by being there for other people. That motive, we're wired that way. So it's very important for us to look internally and motivate ourselves internally as well.
I've had probably a handful of times in my life that I've been able to do something for myself, like a pedicure or something, where I didn't have to put it on a credit card. And I felt good that I could actually afford something for myself. So that's kind of like a place I want to be.
I think there's,
Okay. My answer is kind of weird. So I feel like some of my failures have motivated me. Like some of the bad things that have happened have made me push forward even more. So not anything tangible motivates me, but more so like kind of proving to myself that I can go above what I've been through. Yeah.
so we don't learn from our successes, we learn from our failures. I know we've heard that before, and there's a reason we learn from our failures, because we have a wonderful mind and a wonderful brain, but it's unfortunate, many times our brain remembers the negative and not the positive. And why is that? Because the negative impacts us more than...
It's more emotional?
Yes,
Yeah.
it impacts us more than the positive. So being able to rewire your brain to be able to think that, hey, a failure is something positive, not negative, definitely will lead you to be more successful. So it's really changing that mindset with regards to failure.
I agree with Erica, and mine is similar. So I had my daughter at 19. My husband wasn't super supportive for a very long time. I had very big dreams and very big goals that I could not accomplish because it wasn't in the cards at the time. And so for me, my drive right now is proving it to myself.
Right.
That I can do it, that I can financially take care of myself, because I've been, since I was 18 with my husband and him taking care of a lot of things. So I went from my childhood home to then my husband, and I want to know that that's not what I have to do. And so that's a huge, and that I can be successful, and everything that I've done up until now has molded and just waited for me and built
Yeah, like
what I'm
We're sitting on the same fence post.
like I want to be able to
telling
do
you.
it for me.
And it's like the more that, I don't know about you, but the more that I earn something on my own, the
Yeah.
more I want to keep doing that.
Yes.
You know, I appreciate it more than
Yeah.
if someone had just.
Absolutely.
I mean, I worked in medicine for a long time, so it's not like he paid for everything and took care of everything, but I still kind of correlate that with it being under someone else. And now that I own my own business and I am my own boss, it's even, my drive to succeed is even more on another level.
And it's not to say not to have external motivators, let me make that
Oh no, my
clear.
daughter is
Is to have
100% too.
both, to have both,
Yeah.
not to have one or the other, because we also do need
Yeah.
those external motivators. And then the last two, I already talked about, well, this one, in your life integrate, is your life integrated, I already talked about that. Are you pretty much the same person you are in the workplace and you are at home and in the community? And what steps are you?
We have some newcomers.
Excited. And you got one of those sheets, and thank you for, we just started.
All right.
So, and the last one is, what steps are you taking, okay, to make you a more authentic leader for today, for tomorrow, and for the future?
Can you explain the integration part? Like, is that important, or is that something we just need to be aware of?
Well, both. It's important, something that you need to be aware of. I think that when we are different things at home than we are, or in our community where we are at in the workplace, one, it creates a disjointment. Okay, you see what I'm saying? It creates a disjointment, and then also part of leadership is trust and building relationships. So it's important that you present yourself in, all aspects of your life.
Disconnect is where I was thinking,
Yes.
like, how is that?
Yes, there's a disconnect. Okay, so I love this quote. I believe that knowledge is power, and learning and knowing is important. Hence, my way of getting knowledge is going to school and having that structure. But there's other ways to get knowledge and learn about things. But one of the reasons why and it goes back to that thing that you were talking about, Ellen, I wanted to create this group and also all the other groups that are in the community is what is empowerment? Because we need to empower ourselves. And many times as women, even men, but we're here for women, but as women, we tend to get all this knowledge, and as women leaders, we tend to have all this knowledge and information and learn as you're here, right? But the difference is that we need to be empowering. And what does empowering mean? It means to use that power, to be able to act on that power. If not, it's just knowledge. And what I found when I work with executives and leaders is that many times they have all this information, they have this knowledge, but they don't know how to use it. And knowledge is just knowledge, unless you know how to use it, how to act upon it. And it's, I think, we as women, and we'll talk a little bit about why I think this way, that we need not only to empower ourselves to act on what we know and have a voice, but also help other women act on that knowledge and have a voice as well. So what is leadership? I think we know what kind of leadership is, but leadership is the ability, it's an art, it's a science, that we can motivate a group of people to work towards a common goal. Now, this is not authentic leadership, this is leadership. Okay, and there's many different types of leadership, but overall, this is what leadership is. And sometimes we tend to look at leadership as being in the workplace or in our business, but leadership is everywhere. We're leaders in our home, because we try to motivate our family. Okay. We're leaders in the community. Okay. We're leaders, if you don't have your own business, in the workplace as well. And leadership is something that, for some people, they say, well, you're born a leader. No, you're not. You can learn leadership skills. You can learn those skills that can make you a more effective leader. And I think that's part of one of the things that I want to talk about today is how we can learn those skills and leverage the skills that we have as women, okay, that we were born with, okay, to be able to be empowering and to be able to be a more effective leader. Am I going too fast?
Nope.
Because I can talk really fast. I'm Hispanic. I can talk really fast. So some of the key characteristics of being a leader wrote down here, and basically is having a clear, authentic communication. And we're going to talk about how men and women differ in that area. But if we do not have a clear message, we're not going to be able to communicate it clearly. That's the bottom line. If we don't know what we want to do, what we're doing, what our goals are, then how in heaven's name are we going to get people to do and reach that goal that we want them to reach? There's just no way. So the first step is to really to have a clear, authentic communication. You yourself need to understand, okay, what it is that you want people to do. At the business level, buy your service, buy your product, or even just in the community, you want to definitely have an idea of what it is that you want people to, the common goal that you want them to act upon. And then be visionary and decisive. And that goes back to the question, what is your vision? We all have, and our visions are very different. So we have our own vision, and what does that look like to you? It's unique to you, just like success. What does success look like to you? Somebody said something about success. I think it was Madonna. What does success look like to you? My definition of success is very different, possibly from everyone here. And being decisive. And we're going to talk a little bit later about being decisive because women tend not to be decisive. Okay, that's one of the things that differs us from men. And part of that lack of decisiveness has to do with two things. One is our own internal limiting beliefs, and the other is the limiting beliefs that are placed upon us by society. Okay, where we tend to go back and forth and we question, is this the right decision? Is this a good decision? And we tend to do that more than men, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Relationship building, it's important to be able to build relationship and also to adapt and be flexible. Okay, yes?
Before we move on, I just wanted, I know you're going to get into it later, but I wanted to point out that I do that a lot. Like, after a situation, I'll go and I'm like, did I handle that correctly?
And then
Like,
beat yourself up.
Yeah, and then, I'll ask coworkers or, but like, I can honestly say I've never heard, not to say it hasn't happened, but I don't hear men go around going,
Second guessing.
Second
yeah,
guessing.
I'm always second guessing
I can
myself.
provide for ourselves.
When I'm dealing with the situation at the office, so, yeah.
Yeah, and there's studies that show exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, the challenge with that is that because we tend to be that way, and that's one of the challenges we have in the workplace in corporate America, is we do not get promotions, or we're passed up for promotions. So it's important that we are aware of that and how to handle that, being more decisive in our decision. And if we question it, not letting it show.
Right.
Okay, not letting it show.
Perfect.
But the ideal is for us not to beat ourselves up either.
Right.
Okay, so that's the ideal. So being adaptable and flexible, being able, we talked about the goal, being able to have that roadmap and understand that we need to sometimes change it. We need to change it up. And one of the things that I've experienced with working with leaders is that, people say, okay, yeah, I adapt, I'm flexible, it's knowing when to make that adaptation, when to make that flexibility, when you need to shift that roadmap, not only how as well. And then empathetic and emotional connection kind of goes up with relationship building, and obviously, we're going to talk about this when we tend to be more empathetic. I just want to throw that out there. Emotionally connecting. So that kind of goes with relationship building and trust, and that goes with the new style of leadership, which we have found is very important in today's world. Being able to create that relationship building where the person, whether it's an employee, whether it is somebody in the community, whether it is at home, to have that trust. So delegate and motivate and inspire. And I put all those three together, not because they're the same, just because I don't have space. Honest. But that's another area, delegation. We tend not to delegate, okay, whereas men do. And there's a reason we tend not to delegate. But that's something that is important for us to do because that's why women get burned out.
We want to do it all ourselves.
Yeah,
I just
it's not
want
that we
that
want to do
right.
it all ourselves. I don't want to.
Well, we have that now.
You have that your way.
Yeah,
If you don't do
it
it.
goes, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'll just say it now briefly. The reason we do not delegate is because we're multitaskers. we're able to do more than one thing. Men tend to only do one thing at a time, so they have no other resource or reason to be, so they have to delegate it.
Well, there's a
Basically.
meme that says, I'm totally flexible as long as everything's done my way.
Well,
that
that has to do with perfectionism. That has to do with perfectionism, and that's going to go into imposter syndrome. So I'm going to go which I think if we're sitting here and we're women, business women, we tend to be somewhat perfectionist. Okay.
That's why we did this, because we thought we could do it better than anyone else.
Exactly. So some of the key statistics as it relates to women in leadership roles, I think is important because it really was eye-opening to me when I did my research in the past and recently as to our representation as women in leadership roles. So in the labor force, there are more men than women. I think that's obvious. Some women want to stay home and they stay home. It's pretty equal, but it is more men than women. In the past, I want to say about 5 to 10 years, women have become more educated than men. So they have more college degrees, whether it's a bachelor's or a master's level degree. And there are more women in dominated degree areas like architecture, engineering. There's actually more women in MBA programs, and significantly more. It's about, I think at this point, it's about 60-something% in MBA programs. Yet, when we look at professional and managerial position, there's a huge discrepancy, even though women are more educated than men. 38% versus 62%. Why is that? And I think we're going to touch upon that. And then if you go to CEO positions in Fortune 500, look at the discrepancy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the reason I said that there's more women in MBA programs, because someone with an MBA, a woman with an MBA, is more than capable to be a CEO in a Fortune 500 company. Yet it's 3% representation for women. In board seats is 15% versus 84%. And in politics, which is where changes are made, okay, is 16% versus 83%.
Gross.
Okay.
Yep.
So that to me was a clear eye-opener. And even though we as women have come a long way, there is still a long way to go.
I can't believe that that's a long way. Like,
That's crazy.
That is a long way.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is a long way, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. And then you start thinking, well, it's America, it's the United States, it's different. Well, no, it's not.
Well, aren't more women becoming entrepreneurs and leading their own businesses versus
Yes, but
going
more
into
women
the
fail at their
world?
business than men.
yeah.
Because we stop and take care of
More
other people.
women fail at their businesses than men. More women entrepreneurs fail at their business than men, significantly more than men.
Why is that?
Many reasons. One reason is, for example, women tend to be more cautious with money, so they do not get out loans. That's an example.
They don't take
you,
risks.
Yes, they don't take the risk that men do financially, and in order to grow a business, you need money. And a lot of women go into entrepreneurship. A lot of women go in entrepreneurship because they're stay-at-home moms. So they do both. So we have to kind of separate that.
Even though an entrepreneur to me works way more
Yeah.
sometimes than an employee.
Yep.
Like, we're working all the time.
All the time.
So if you're wanting to go into it for more time, it takes a while to get to that point,
Exactly. So there's other reasons as well, but those are two of the reasons why that happens. So we look at worldwide. Look where the United States stands.
We're low.
18%. That kind of went up the past after COVID to like 20%, but significantly less.
What is
than
the
our
20%?
The women in leadership roles.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
that's it.
So Russia has 46%
What?
women.
Women.
We're
46%.
just ahead of India.
We're just Now that is shocking for a developed country who has equal opportunity.
Alleged equal opportunity.
Okay? So this is why, and I brought this up because this is why we as women, need to be supportive of one another, need to
Yeah.
empower one another, and need to continue to understand and learn and empower ourselves and others as well. And actually, not that I'm going to bash men, because men have skills that are important.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that women should be leaders and men should not. It should be that companies should have equal representation
Yeah.
of leadership.
I agree.
Because we have different skills. And if they have equal representation, oh my God,
Yeah.
how successful would they be? Because then you're using the skills of women who are very different than men, and you're using the skills of men
The best
who
of
are
both
different than
worlds.
women. It's the best of both worlds. So this is actually doing a disservice for corporations and companies, but try to say that to companies. Try to say that to CEOs. Okay, try to say that. That is very, very difficult and challenging, Carol. Let me give you a minute. I actually had somebody in the community, a man in the community, says, why are there so many women groups and no men groups? And I had to kind of hold myself back because I needed to be
Professional.
But I found an opportunity to educate that individual and explain to them why women groups are so important, and because he's a business owner, perhaps he can help. So there doesn't need to be any women groups in the community. So yes, Karen.
Going back to like when I worked in medicine and things like that, I'm not gonna lie, I would have preferred to work for a man than work for a woman.
Yes.
I would
I
have.
was about to mention that. Is
I
like-
would have rather reported for many different reasons.
I think they're,
Many
and
reasons.
some of the leaders that I worked under, female leaders, were,
Well, I was gonna say women are catty.
it's
Yeah,
we
different.
need
It's
these
different.
groups
Well,
to
yes.
encourage
Yes.
us.
They are.
Well,
Like-
why do you
So-
think that is?
Because
The
they're,
statistics,
Right.
because we're
Right.
competing, there's
Yeah.
30 of us competing for possibly one position,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
so it becomes very competitive.
But even if they're above me, I'm not competing.
Right.
I'm below you. You're my superior. I'm not going to take your position. You're in an administrative position, and I was in a clinical position. They weren't even the same, but
But
I
women
could
in
go
leadership
to a
feel
man
threatened.
yes,
and I could.
yes.
But
I
that
could
man
go to a
doesn't think
man-
you're going to take his job away
Right.
because
Yeah,
there is
right.
more with a woman.
Yeah.
We are competing with one another. We don't
Yeah.
have to be.
But like you said, that's why the group is
But
important.
we, you know,
Yeah.
it's not about competing,
Yeah.
and that's why I say it's not about competing with another woman. It's about elevating women
Yeah.
to be able to have more positions that they can go into, and that way we are not like, hard bitch.
Yeah. If we,
Sorry
if,
for the word, I'm getting videoed.
Yeah.
I think maybe some of it also might have to do with the fact that they had to take on a certain role and persona to get to that position. And so the word boss bitch, you know, you hear that in anything, and women are like, that's what I am, and that's what I have to be, because of what I had to do to get here, and
And to
I
stay
don't
there.
know how to turn it off.
And
You
to
know,
stay there.
Exactly,
And
so
to
they
stay
take
capable.
change
Yeah, but that's where
one's
empathy comes
persona.
So, and I agree totally, that's a good point. And the thing is that's because male leadership believes still, or the CEOs and corporations believe still that good leaders or effective leaders are those leaders that are like that.
Yeah.
Okay, where it has evolved and it has changed.
I think if we didn't have the groups, we would just cause more division amongst each
I
other.
agree. I
So we
love
kind
it.
of need this to continue to encourage, like, I'm just saying, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people. I'm super like solo. I don't really like to be around women. I'm not gonna lie. My best
Except
friend,
me.
I like you. I love you. I love you. But you know, like, I'll be totally transparent. I don't like to be around women. My best friend is a male. I have a best friend who's a male and a best friend who's a lesbian. Like, I just don't like that whole like sisterhood and this and that. I'm like, well, I don't care about that. But I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So I've never really had to work for anyone, and I have that mindset. However, because of a negative experience I had with a male CEO, that's why I continue to come to these groups and encourage the people around me, because I do realize if we don't have this, we could continue to cause division, and then what? Then that number's going to get smaller,
Yes.
you know, so.
Absolutely, and that's a very good point. So going into gender differences, and I touched upon the differences at the brain level in a previous talk, but I'll briefly talk about it again. So these are some of the differences both in skills and mind and brain connection. And before I go into how our brain works, we have found out that being a transformational interpersonal leader is more effective than being a transactional task-oriented leader. And that's what men fall under, being that transactional task-oriented leader. It's like do. Women are more open to communication, more social enhancement. They use their intuition, more emotional, believe it or not. Yes, we're more emotional, but we can regulate our emotions better. Even though we're told that we don't. Okay. And the reason why is because the area of the brain that has our emotions is larger in women and more connections. So we're actually at the brain level able to do that. Okay, it's just that if we scream, we're seen differently as if a man screams. A man screams and it's, they're assertive. A woman screams and it's like, oh, we're emotional.
We're just a drama queen.
Very emotional. They're a multitasker, focused on details. The ones that are actually, what is this, italics? Ooh. Italics. They kind of go back to that leadership style, the effective leadership style that I talked about earlier. So you see that women have several of them. Men also do have several of them, and that's why I say it's not about men versus women. It's about being able to kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
okay.
It's totally different.
Exactly. Totally different. And if you look at the brain, the reason why they're totally different, and I don't know who remembers this conversation from my previous talk, is I start with women. So we have two hemispheres in our brain, the left and the right. And women, the way that we make connections is that we go from left to right, right to left. So we make connections across the hemisphere. Okay, we learn information and then we're able to connect that information with our whole brain. Left side, right side. And that's what makes us multitasker, because we're able to make those connections on both sides. Men, on the other hand, poor souls, connections. They can only, because they do cross the hemisphere, but not as much as women. They tend to make connections on one side of the hemisphere, front, back, front, back, front, back. And that's what makes them single task oriented, okay, versus across. That also is what makes them better at motor skills, for example. Whereas women, they're better at fine motor skills because they're using the whole brain. So definitely there are significant differences. Okay, so the point of this is that we really want to be able to leverage those skills. And even though these are our weaknesses, we need to be able to identify those weaknesses and work on those weaknesses. So again, being more decisive, okay, being more direct, although sometimes being direct is seen as
aggressive.
Yeah.
I cannot even tell you how many times I've had someone say, like, Erica, you're pissing people off. I'm like, what?
That's why I prefer a man over a woman, because whenever I have to be under a woman, then I have to really tailor how I speak. I have to think about the way I'm articulating it. But if I'm talking to a man, I can just be like da 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 da, and it is what it is. And it's
very little.
yeah.
One note that I want to mention, which is not italics, is that last one that's under the man, which says result-driven and seek promotion. We know that women do not seek promotion as much as men. They don't ask. They don't have a voice. Okay, why? My theory is that we have been trained not to. Okay, because society, we have so many things going on, and maybe even it's a self-limiting belief, we're not going to get it, so why even ask? That kind of thing.
I was going to just use two examples on that. With that, you're correct. My husband is actually the one who has pushed me since we've been together, and I'm where I'm at because of that. And with that also being said, my boss, I've actually tried to leave twice. And he's like, why? Where are you going? What are you doing? No. What is it going to take? He's teaching me how to negotiate and finding my worth. And so this last time, he's like, listen, can you just come to me the next time you're thinking about leaving before you go and try to give me another resignation? Because I'm sure we'll get talking out.
Yes.
But he's like, why don't you do that? why don't you just come to me? Why do we have to go here?
Get to that.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
because for me and him, you know, I look towards him like a big brother, and so it's hard to come and say, hey, this is what I want, this is what when I can just go to a perfect stranger and say, this is what I want, this is what you're gonna give me,
It's what I'm
if you
worth.
want me to come on board. And he's like, okay, but you could do that with me,
So that goes back to Madonna. That
Yeah.
goes back to being consistent, going both in your personal and in your professional life. Whether it's with somebody who you believe to be like your brother or someone who is a stranger, and having a voice at both
on both sides.
on both sides, and be cognizant. And the first step that we need to do to make changes within ourselves and society is to understand ourselves, to be aware. Okay, basically, what changes are we going to make if we're not aware of what the change needs to be?
Right.
You see, so that's the first step. So that's why I'm bringing it up to that goes back. It's a clear cut of what being consistent across
Yes,
our life
it's
is.
easier to walk away from a mentor than it was to ask that mentor.
To express
So
what
you
you
really
know.
need to look within
Yeah.
yourself and
Yeah.
ask why.
Well,
I think
because
a
we're
lot of-
afraid for them to deny us. Like, we tell them what we need or what we want, and we're afraid that they're gonna be like, nope, nope, and you're done. So then we automatically go on the defense, like, I'm just leaving, I'm gonna do, you know what I mean?
So this takes me to the glass ceiling. I think everybody knows what the glass ceiling is, but if you do not know, it's basically an invisible barrier that is placed that really stops women or prevents women from going up the corporate ladder. And those barriers are usually placed by society. We do have barriers within ourselves as well, and some of them are placed by our previous experiences with, family, and some of them are placed by society experiences as well. So, why do we have the glass ceiling? This is a recent study, and this is also eye-opening. It was eye-opening to me, and how we are perceived as women and why we do not get promotions or are seen as women in leadership roles. We are held at a higher standard, so we have to be that boss bitch.
Well,
Okay?
I think it was kind of like what she was saying before as well, is like the reason we don't ask is because we don't know our own worth,
Mhm.
and we don't know what kind of value we can present.
And that's why we need to look at those skills that I talked about, because there is value. And that goes with messages that we have received, either from when we were young, our family, our experiences, or society has been
Like
telling us.
Last
for
month's talk
decades.
that I did, like, perfectly goes
Yeah,
along with
mhm.
this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, just women are not ready to be leaders, for God's sakes. Definitely,
wanna
people
be.
believe that.
So this is what
Yes, this is a study that was done with thousands of men and women. Okay, and this is what came out. Okay, women have less connections, not relationship connections like this, connections with people of power. Okay? Family responsibilities have always been an issue, even though we know that maybe perhaps that has changed. There are more men becoming more responsible of family. It's still seen as a woman's role to caregive, either for children or for parents. And women are just not tough enough, which is interesting because if we're tough, we're bitches.
So if women are not tough enough to be in a leadership role, doesn't that have a lot to do with the people that put us into that leadership role and not educating us or leading us to
No.
that leadership role?
No, do not ever, ever, ever put that power to somebody else.
I agree.
That power is yours. It is your power.
So
And
say
you
we
need to
step into a leadership role.
You need to step into your power.
So we step into a leadership role, and when we're promoted, say it's a promotion.
Yes.
Okay, so we're promoted into that role,
Mhm.
but there's no
So you're looking at
guidance, yes,
set up
or
to fail.
yeah, that's what they're basically. It
So
happened to me. That's why I'm saying I lived through it.
there are gender biases, okay, once a woman is in a leadership role, excuse me, which we're going to talk about. You're going to lead me to the next slide, which we're going to talk about those gender biases, okay. But it is our responsibility to seek that knowledge.
I did.
No, I'm
I
just
know
saying
what you're
overall,
saying,
not you.
overall, but no, I'm just saying, but in my situation, I did go further. I went to get an education. I took some classes, and my store manager at the time felt threatened because I was going to school night classes for this particular
Well, then that's
thing,
the time
and
that,
then he was like,
well, that's the time of decision that you either need to go above him or you need to seek some other employment. You need to really make that personal decision what's better for yourself.
Yeah.
So-
Divorce them.
So,
Decide not to let them take your
so going to what you're saying is, so why is that? What is happening that we have that glass ceiling and it's preventing us from, aside from the statistics I showed you, the graphs that I showed you, that is preventing us from making those, elevating ourselves to being in leadership roles. So interesting enough, men have different obstacles than women. Interesting, I mean, that's obvious, but men have different obstacles than women. Men's obstacles tend to be internal obstacles. Okay, they tend to be, you know, we were talking about they're not empathetic, as empathetic as women. They have accountability issues.
Oh my God, nothing is ever their fault, they do nothing wrong.
So they tend to be, I've trained my husbands. So
but he's getting better.
so they tend to be more apathetic. Again, that lack of emotion, which we know is important in leadership roles today. And believe it or not, they do have some fears. Even though they may not show it, they do have some fears, they do have some anxiety. They just don't communicate.
Fear of failure.
Yeah, they just don't communicate as much as we do. Or they communicate in different ways. Women, on the other hand, have both external and internal obstacles. We have the internal obstacles, again, kind of those limiting beliefs that are placed within us that we're not worthy, you know, we don't know our value, that kind of thing. We have external ones like gender bias, leadership model, and what I mean by that, well, let me go back to lack of diversity. Lack of diversity, what I mean by that is that those are external. There is really very little diversity within corporations. Usually they're made up of a specific group of people, male usually, it's white male, okay, that make leadership roles. So that's an external. Then the work-life pressure, that's kind of internal. Okay, we place that upon ourselves because we think we need to do everything. Okay, and we really don't. We need to delegate.
We need to find that no in us.
Yes, and delegate. And lack of networking opportunities. Believe it or not, when we talk about networking, well, I'm talking about networking with powerful people. Powerful men. Okay,
How do you
make
obtain
decisions.
that?
Well, that's what we need to change. That's what we need to change. That's what the women group is great for support, but we really need to start penetrating that. You know, we need to start penetrating, being in networking groups with men who are decision makers. Yes.
So why don't we, just as a suggestion, find these powerful men and let them speak, do a presentation on how they get what they got.
I just go to them. But you were
I
talking
know.
about me.
Yeah.
I network with powerful men, but outside of this.
But when you say network, aren't you saying?
I'm saying put yourself outside of that box and put yourself in situations where you speak and have a
With
voice
those.
to leaders who make decisions and educate. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, girl, why?
I don't know.
See, yeah.
So that leads me to imposter syndrome. And yes, I have a mild side of imposter syndrome, so I'll raise my hand.
I think we all do.
I think we all do.
I
But
think
it's that
I'm a perfectionist, I can't help it.
it's a feeling of self-doubt and incompetence, even when we have the skills and the education and the knowledge, okay, to be able to perform the tasks and the job. We feel that we're not good enough, we feel that we're fake, and somebody is going to find out that we're not good enough. And that causes a lot of stress. That causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress in women. And it does manifest itself differently in people because we are different, but I'm going to talk in a few minutes about what are the symptoms, the general symptoms of imposter syndrome. And again, it's those inner doubts stemming from, that's okay, limiting beliefs. And it really happens women who try to go up the corporate ladder. We found that more than 77% of women have said that they experience imposter syndrome or have imposter syndrome in corporate America. And when I mean corporate America, it's, businesses as well. I mean, corporate America is business. So, and then men do suffer from imposter syndrome. Years back, we thought it was just women, but now we know that it is men. Men too. The difference is that women suffer from it more than men, and the other difference is that men get over it faster. Because they find, once they're in the leadership role, they find mentorships, they find support that women, as you said, women do not find. Okay, so they're able to kind of, those doubts that they have because of imposter syndrome, they're able to kind of work through it because of those resources that they have at the leadership role that women do not. Yes?
So I feel like because of imposter syndrome, I have to work, I guess, even harder to prove things to other people and to myself. Oh, perfect. So I feel like, for example, I think my biggest issue personally is the fact that I don't have a college degree. So when people question my experience, because I am a professional speaker, I do a lot of media appearances, I'm on TV, I'm on radio. Some people are like, you're like a local celebrity. I get all this attention, and I'm like, then I start to, I'm like, okay, I achieved this thing, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, but, do I deserve to be put on that pedestal? And usually my biggest thing is the college education. A lot of people question, like, what makes you qualified to be an educator on sexual assault prevention? What makes you qualified to own a nonprofit or whatever? And I feel like I have to constantly justify, well, I have this type of experience or this certification or blah, blah, blah. And so that's when this starts to really mess with me. And then, like you said, men get over it quicker. I feel like I'm always stressing about it. I'm like, what if someone finds out that I don't have a back?
But that's again, that's an external, it doesn't matter the education. When we want to talk about imposter syndrome, I have 3 degrees. Why did I get 3 degrees? I love learning, but part of it is because I felt that as a woman, I needed to work 10 times harder than them. And still, I was in corporate America and I was a CEO, okay, of a service-related company, okay, and, I'm a woman, I got pregnant. And I was not put up for a promotion and money-wise because, by Carol, because of that. Simply because of that. And so, yeah.
And I think that's why I struggle with that, because I always felt that I needed an education. But then I have to remind myself, well, Erica, you were homeless, so the fact that you did this much with nothing, it's like I have to constantly talk myself out of the lack
of self-confidence and feelings of anxiety.
What university you went to? I went to the University of Life. And believe me, it makes them like,
yes,
because
I'm sorry,
I've used that quite a few times, and I went back to school just to prove someone else that I can do it, and finding that out that I was successful at it, but when it came to getting a job in that field, I was, well, you just fresh out of school. I was like, yeah, and so I was like, you know what, and then I said to my husband, I said, you know what, I didn't waste that money to go back to school because, you know what, that's going to come in handy. Everything that I learned is going to come in handy down the line.
Well, everyone's access to resources is different too, and I have to remind myself that it doesn't invalidate what I have achieved with what I have.
Everybody is different and bring your own skill set.
And I feel like the times are changing now in corporate world. They're not, I I've seen a change in looking at bachelor's degrees, that that's
Yeah.
not necessarily the best person for that position.
It's
because
actually
they
women
have
who
it.
have questioned me.
Madonna,
It was
Really?
I want to get
Yes.
to Madonna. She's
Well,
really
so, yeah, no, I was just curious because, you know, I do have the education and the degrees and the experience and things, but I also have all of those.
Yes.
So,
Me too.
I'm on the day.
Me too.
So, then with that being said, what steps can we take to alleviate,
we're
like,
getting to
what
it.
can I do?
So it's like
We're all on stay 5 minutes.
Yeah, I
I was
need to
gonna
take,
say, I was gonna like you. Remember we talked about that?
like me, yes.
I need 44 years of, you know.
Well, one
course.
is, you can hire a coach.
Okay.
But also, believe it or not, part of helping ourselves with imposter syndrome is being an authentic leader. And that's why I included, okay? And being an authentic leader is really being genuine, we talked about that, is being in a position where you inspire trust, loyalty, and strong performance. You gasped.
Because I feel like I have a very diverse background. I've been in a lot of roles and I stayed in those roles for 10, 5 years. You know, I didn't job hunt, but I've had a very diverse background. And one of the things that I struggled with is I felt like at times in certain positions, if I was my authentic self, I wasn't going to get anywhere because I
Right.
didn't fit in with their clique.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I agree with
Their
you, and
culture.
this is why I
Right.
did this, that because times have changed. And believe me, I try to get into businesses and corporations and companies to kind of educate, okay, about leadership styles and about the different
Right.
skills, the different skill set between men and women, to try to sort of break that glass ceiling for women. So yes, but I think we just cannot quit. We cannot give up, basically. So what do you do as an authentic leader? Okay, so those reflection questions that you have there, you really assess and evaluate yourself and have that voice, know your strengths and your weaknesses, and for those weaknesses, being able to delegate. Okay, because what ends up happening is that because we're multitasker, we try to do things that are our weaknesses. And that takes a lot of time and energy to do. And it's better just to delegate those and really
And
focus
now
on
we're doing
doing those.
nothing 100% because we're divided.
Exactly, thank you for bringing that, I forgot to say that, because when we multitask, we can't give 100% to every single task either. And if we try, we get burned out. Or have a nervous breakdown, as they say, for some people. And then build your platform. What message, core message, do you want to relay to people about yourself? What is your story? Not to be too personal necessarily, but what is your story? And to overcome the doubts, believe it or not, we have to do things with purpose. Okay? We're going to have doubts. You're not going to get rid of those doubts. Okay? But you have to step. Even if you have those doubts, you have to step forward. Okay? Because the only way we're going to learn, because our brain is neuroplastic, the only way we're going to learn is by doing. So the more we step out of that doubt, the weaker that doubt becomes. Because we're reinforcing it. You know, we're reinforcing the success. We're reinforcing that step. Any questions so far?
What do you charge an hour?
And what to do, we'll get the details in after, but what to do as leaders. What we did in the previous class, what you can do individually. But we're all business owners, and we're all leaders. And what you can do is you can encourage women to take up leadership roles. Okay? Because we tend not to. Okay? You can create a more balanced approach in the workplace leadership. Sort of highlight the skills that women have and highlight, which I talked to Vinny yesterday about.
Okay.
Highlight the, remember,
Yeah.
highlight the skills, because Vinny asked, whoever knows Vinny. Highlight the skills that women have in leadership roles, and so they can know that those leadership skills are not only beneficial, but that they can be successful if they show those leadership skills. And continuously assess on an ongoing basis where you need to improve. We all need to improve. We're not perfect. There's always room for improvement. That's it. Any questions? Oh, I only wanted 5 minutes. There we go.
Perfect.
I started with 30
10:30, so I don't know what y'all are talking about. It's at 10:30, I'm like, oh, okay.
Really? Okay, so I need to change that. So any questions, any comments, anything you want to share, you know, I'm
Book a one-on-one with her, it's so worth it.
so,
So worth it.
Yes, I mean, you know, we have had a one-on-one, and I will say that when we were talking, she was like, you know, you have that mindset, like, here are my problems, tell me what to do. And she was like, that's not what it's about. It's not, it's a step-by-step, but it's not a step-by-step. But that's how I personally think, like, I see it, and I'm already thinking about what I need to do to fix it, you know?
Right, actionable.
Yes,
can we use another word that's not fixed?
sure.
Then,
You tell me the word.
then,
No, meant is fixing. So change, to change it, you know, to grow from it. And the reason the reason we said because I do that all the
We're
time.
not broken.
Yes, I do that all the
We're
time.
not broken.
I do that, I need
We
to
just
fix
need
it.
to change our mindset.
Yeah, I need to fix it. And we're not broken, you know. So we need to change the way the words have meaning. I tell this to my husband all the time. Words, I mean, he hates being married to somebody. I think words have meaning. And every word we use, okay, we learn through our senses. That's how we learn. That's how it is encoded in our brain. Okay, and every word we use goes through our ears, into our mind, in our brain, and is interpreted. And if we use it long enough, okay, it becomes true and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So unconsciously, we now start thinking we're broken. Okay, when just a simple word is fixed. We're broken, I need to fix myself. No, I need to change to be better. Okay, or to, you know, to be the best version of myself to be. Okay, but not broken. Okay. And I do that all the time. I'm not, you know, I do that all the
Me
time.
too.
You know. But I've tried to project, and I tell my husband he needs to fix himself. But
Well, that one slide that you showed where it said women, we pay attention to details.
yes.
You know, we are more inclined to focus on the details than our counterparts. And I'm saying this with all absolute truth, and if he was here, he'd say it too. My husband will tell you that I'm usually right all the darn time, which irritates him, but it's because I pay attention to details.
Yeah.
And I don't open up my mouth unless I'm not 100% sure that I know what I'm talking about. So it's a rare thing, but we are constantly paying attention to the big picture and the whole picture, where they're that single-minded.
And exactly, and as you said, it goes back to that slide with that brain, where we use our whole brain, and we cross what we call the corpus callosum, which is in the middle of the brain, and we're able to make connections on both hemispheres. It's poor souls. It's not that they can't help it.
No, we can't.
You know, we're just different.
is there ever,
We're made
like,
different.
in statistics, is there ever a man that can multitask?
I mean, there's exceptions to rules. It's not that they cannot
I have
multitask.
some of those male traits.
Yeah, we have
Oh,
male
yeah.
traits.
I'm
We
very
have
dominant.
male traits, and we have,
I
and
don't
men have
think
female
my husband
traits.
is
It's, Ellen, it's not black and white. You know, there are some, you know, it's not black and white. I'm talking about in general, for the most part, okay? But there are exceptions. Some men can or they can learn to try to, they will never multitask
Oh, no, I know that.
as well as women, just because our brain is
But they can learn the
wired
skill.
differently. But they can
They
learn the
could adapt
skill.
it.
They can, and the thing is, why would they want to multitask? That's the question I have. Why, if it's serving them, why would they want to multitask? They can delegate it. It's gotten them to leadership roles. Okay, they can, you know, they're not burned out because they're not doing 300 things in one time. Okay, so why in heavens would they want to multitask? I mean, honestly, if you're going to change something about yourself, change something that is no longer serving you to something that actually works for you.
I know where you need to go speak.
Where?
At all the universities, the state universities,
Mhm.
to their
Can you say
executive
what you
leaders.
just
It
said?
is. It's huge. It's
Without throwing
necessary.
it out, what did you say? I'm gonna take notes.
What did I say before?
If it's not serving you, throw it out.
Okay, why would we want to change something, okay, if what we're doing is serving us?
Right.
Okay, and if it's not serving us, you need to look at what is not serving you in order to make those changes.
So a negative thought.
Negative thought,
And
negative
that negative thought is not
yes.
serving you.
Negative talk, which has to do with limiting beliefs and all that, and our gremlin, as I call it, negative thoughts really goes back to what I said before. Our brain remembers negativity more than it does positivity. That's why it's so important for us to reward ourselves when something positive comes up. And one of the things I didn't mention was, for example, a way to do that is keeping a journal, not of how I feel, no. A journal of what you did, the challenges you faced, how you overcame them, what reward worked for you, that kind of thing. Because what we end up doing is we end up forgetting our successes. And we end up thinking about our failures. And that journal will help you go back and look at, oh yeah, I've had these successes, I've done this, and then, oh, this reward worked for me. So when I went to school, and this just was innate, when I went to graduate school, I was so reward driven. Literally, if I set myself a goal, I got an A on this test, I literally went and got myself a reward. I went shopping, whatever that reward was, but I gave myself a reward because you need to do that. Okay, so it's important to keep that kind of journal. The feeling journal is important too, because you're getting the feelings out. But we're talking about leadership, and what you need to do and what works for you, and look back and see. We need to remind ourselves of our successes, and we need to remind each other of our successes. That's why when, I don't know if Erica, that's why so many times I kind of say, oh, you're so wonderful, you're great, and you're effective, and all this.
We're always
Yes.
encouraging each other.
Encouraging,
You did great.
because we need that. We need that. We need to hear that. We need to encourage that.
Plus, I suck at rewarding myself. I really.
And we do,
Yeah.
and the reason I bring this up, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. How many people suck at rewarding?
Totally, never do.
Never, ever do. Okay, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, no.
Men
Oh,
do.
no. But men do. Yeah. More so than women. So that's why I bring that up. And it doesn't have to be a huge reward. It could be something small, but a reward, nevertheless. Okay? Pat in the back, a reward. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you
So if you know of any company, any corporation that wants to hear kind of this, let me know.
Yeah, I feel like you need to be
Yeah.
corporate organizations
Yes,
speaking to their leaders.
Yes.
I dealt with it a
Yeah.
lot working for a state university here in
Mhm.
Florida because I worked beside a VP. And to sit in those board meetings with these men and
Yeah.
No, it was so terrible. But the bad thing was my VP was a woman who would not stand up to these men. So that's what made it so challenging and hard, because she would always be like, well, this is what Ben wants. Well, I don't care what Ben wants. It's not for the best of the good.
Especially for someone who's in a VP position,
Yes.
who's been given a voice and isn't using it.
Right. So I stayed for 5 years and then I had to leave because I was like, I can't. It was just like we weren't getting anywhere because she wasn't fighting for her team.
Yeah, you guys can go.
Yeah, I gotta run-
Go,
I'm
go,
gonna run
go,
to
go,
the
go.
office.
Yeah, go. Thank you
That's
for
why I
coming,
was staying in the
Madonna.
state.
No, thank you for having me. This was very informative.
Corporate
Yes,
higher ed.
Yes, higher ed
Yeah.
is where
It's where she needs to be.
where it is definitely warranted.
So I'm starting a business mastermind. I don't know when, but I'm starting it. I don't know yet when, because I have some other stuff going on. I'm going to talk at Palm Coast, Flathead Palm Coast Chamber. Chamber as well. I don't know the date yet there. So just if you want to follow,
You don't know when it's gonna be.
I don't know what's going to
Oh,
be.
okay.
It's November it's going to be. But, follow me, and I'm always posting. MD Consulting Company. On Facebook, Facebook, Instagram. I'm always posting my events and so forth, so.
I'm gonna check everyone in.
Yeah, I checked in.
Okay.
I did.
She's
Look,
so
I always tag everyone. I'm like, here's a photo, here's a link.
I learned, listen,
You can.
We're also better listeners.
For those of you that just met me, I do social media marketing too. I just don't promote it. So when
That's
people.
awesome. That's
It
amazing.
works really well. I do that.
So we're not having one December, just because it's the holidays. We're gonna start off in January, once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah, I'm just not having one in January, in November, December, because it's the holidays, for Thanksgiving,
What it would be, Black Friday?
yeah, Christmas, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not doing that, so we're gonna start out Friday. I'm always looking also for, speakers.
No, I'm
Not a speaker.
I'm not a speaker either, actually.
I will speak again anytime.
I'm not a speaker either. I've never been a speaker. I hate speaking. Speaking is, public speaking to me is one of the most anxiety-provoking things.
Yes, I thought
But you need to,
right.
but you need to step outside of your, and I'm actually gonna do a public speaking class.
Okay, I can
Program,
remember that first.
public speaking program. I'm gonna do,
I don't know if have you already
yeah.
like going to.
I'll email you. I know Ellen was interested in it as well when I have a program, it's a small group that I'm gonna work with to really try to help that anxiety. And I know, it goes back to the communication.
Yeah, I can do small settings, but we'll stand in front of, and you know, when we're
No, I get it. I get it, it's performance.
I don't like people staring at me, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, because for me, I'll share that with you. I was a professor of 2 universities. Yeah, I was. It was in Florida, South Florida. I was an adjunct professor, never a full professor, because it's important to be
So what time?
So I love teaching, so I did adjunct professor at Nova Southeast University and St. Thomas.
Alright, I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Yeah.
Did a lot of soccer
Yeah.
stuff when Nikki was being recruited or whatever for soccer.
I mean, I did it, I still
She's getting over it.
Hi, thank you for coming. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Love your boots.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I've done
Yeah,
such
I
stuff imported into the CRM, whatever you need.
Okay, whatever, State University, I worked with them all the way up
CSR.
to accredited.
Excel, and I'm gonna figure out what to do.
Yes,
I loved it though, but.
The State University is very, yes, it is very. I forgot to get this out.
So,
Isn't that annoying?
so I'm maneuvering into something new and I just need help.
Okay,
So-
yeah.
To be independent.
It has
Yes.
you checked in, you just, if you want to say anything, you can, or you can just click post.
Okay.
So
then you
Yeah, I can help you
You already
with
have my
everything,
card, so you don't
because,
need my card.
you know, I do all sorts of admin, I can do marketing materials, things like that too. I can do pretty much anything.
Okay, I need your card.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll leave.
Yep, I'll go to my website,
I can
tax
do
packages,
that.
everything
Oh, the ones
that
that
I
you
put in.
were
No. You'll do it. There are
I can
6.
send you my resume website,
That's
and that has examples of all the stuff that I've done in my.
Don't you feel like to post that? I mean,
That's what
how
happened.
Be what I do and let them glean.
No, there are certain photos, that's why I said I need your, there are certain photos that I
I was working, I
on Facebook.
worked for.
that was real, John happened